What's up, Bill? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. We're gonna see each other pretty soon in Valencia, I hope.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that.
Very likewise. So, Bill, today you're gonna give us a little bit of help on some of the do's and don'ts in terms of getting involved in open source. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty good. Well, if you want, just give folks a brief intro if they don't know you, and you should know who Bill is, by the way. But Bill, give them a quick introduction, and then jump right into your presentation.
Sure. Maybe I start sharing my presentation because that is actually one of my slides is my intro.
Sounds
So,
good. Go for it.
okay, cool. Let me just show it. So yeah, as Bart was saying, today I'm going to talk to you about the 7 biggest mistakes you shouldn't make in open source. So a little bit about who I am is I currently work at Isovalent. And as you can tell, one of our logos is the bee. So I like to consider myself a community pollinator, helping the open source community around the Cilium project grow, develop, and evolve. But I guess I haven't always been doing this, obviously. So maybe the first question is, how did I get started in open source? And maybe a little bit about me is I actually don't have any technical background. If you look at over there on the left, that's me at the science fair. I actually got my undergraduate degree in biochemistry. Then I took a short stint as a bike racer, went on to get a master's degree in social science, still no tech background, and eventually ended up at the right there in Kubernetes at a small 4-person startup called RiseML. And that was my first introduction to technology. I don't know how to code. I still really don't. I can read a little bit of YAML, but it's not something that I've always done, and I don't maybe have the experience. And so maybe the first thing I would say, the biggest mistake is it's never too late to get started. The biggest mistake you can make is not getting started. It's like the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So get started today. And hopefully that's what you're here for today to learn about. So now the next question would be, if I don't have that background, how did I learn about open source and technology? Simple answer, Google. So when I joined that small startup, I said, okay, there's this Kubernetes thing. It was not the exotic Greek island that I thought I was going to vacation on for the next foreseeable future. It is instead a technology about running these things called containers. And so what I do, I Googled what is containers and what is Kubernetes. And it led me down a path to get to, for example, this YouTube video, the Illustrated Children's Guide to Kubernetes, and really to a lot more resources all around the community. Things like blogs, like nano degrees, different websites like 100 Days of Kubernetes, other YouTube videos. There's so many great resources out there. And the second biggest mistake you can make is not using these free resources. Is if you want to start learning and start going down your open source journey, literally just start Googling things. I think that's one of the great things about the tech industry is that there's so many things out there and it's there for you to consume. So go take advantage of those resources. On top of that, there's a lot of things around the ecosystem. For example, I'm going to be meeting Bart at KubeCon, hopefully also be meeting other students or diversity scholarship attendees there. There's free ways to attend conferences and learn about and dive into these open source ecosystems. And not only are there these big conferences, there's also local events in your areas. Things like Kubernetes community days that are happening all around around the world, Australia, Brazil, China, Italy, the UK, Africa. Find the local events around you and get them as a good place to get started. And a lot of these are either free or very low cost for students to get started. And for example, you can see this talk that's going to be happening at KubeCon is beginning to maintainer journey of a student. We're talking about how they attended the Kubernetes Community Day Bangalore and now are maintainers on a part of Kubernetes. So I'd encourage you to check out this talk, but it's really, start small, go and meet people and start on your journey today. And so the number 3 is not using these free opportunities. Companies and projects want you, they will pay for you to get started. There's lots of scholarships or programs out there to help you get started too. Not only are they free, there's some of them that are also paid, things like Google Summer of Code, Google Season of Docs, Outreachy, that you can get involved in today. And so maybe the question is then, how did I start start contributing to open source. Here I am at this booth, but actually in this picture, I had been working at this company for about 6 months, but I still hadn't contributed anything to open source. We were in the open source ecosystem, but I wasn't yet a contributor to any part of open source. And so the first thing I actually did was not contributing any code. I actually started writing blogs. And this actually began as a way for me to understand the industry. I learned things through other free resources and wrote my thoughts down and started to publish things. I also started giving talks at conference, sharing my knowledge, learning in public. These are really my first contributions to the open source ecosystem. And the number 4 biggest mistake is believing that only code counts. There's so many other things. There's lots of non-code contributions that you can do. Things like writing blogs, giving talks, even tweeting about and promoting different projects. These are all the first ways that I would say I actually got started in the open source ecosystem. But then maybe you're asking, what was my first code contribution? It was this, actually. Here's the screenshot. It was fixing a broken link. I was reading through the Kubernetes documentation, and there was a link that was broken. I knew how to fix it. And so that was my first actual code contribution. And my second one was adding a entry into a dictionary or a glossary in Kubernetes. So, really simple, not that big, fixing a broken link, adding a couple lines in the glossary. So I think the number 5 mistake is thinking that any contribution is too small to matter. These things are important because the person that's coming after you also won't be able to find the right link. And now, if you're wondering, how do you get to larger changes and start contributing more? There's documentation out there. There's getting started guide, there's contributings, and I'd really encourage you to read these. There's also bigger things like k8s.devs or the SIG contributor experience that you can check out and learn. And these are really important because as you're starting to make not just simple changes that projects can just accept, like fixing a broken link, larger changes in the documentation or the code, there's certain standards that the community will have. And if you don't read their contributing guide or how they want things formatted or what they're looking for, it probably won't be accepted, and you'll be kind of disappointed that your larger change and contribution won't be accepted into the project. So make sure you read these documentations. They're there for a reason. And on the theme of that, I actually do have a book giveaway today. So if you tweet about your favorite part from the talk, I'll be giving away this book called Forge Your Future with Open Source. I know it's a great introduction to the open source community, and I encourage you to read it. Even if you don't win it, I'm happy to send my copy to someone else to kind of pay it forwards to the community. So tell me what your favorite part of the talk was. And kind of going along with that, number 6 mistake is not lurking. There's a lot of things you can read, and just kind of getting a sense of how the community works, who the important people are, who you need to get buy-in from, is actually really helpful to contributing to open source. So you don't always have to go in and contribute right away. Sometimes it's helpful just to join a Slack channel, follow some issues on GitHub, see how other people in the community are doing it, and then you can learn a lot from that. And now, once you're actually contributing, what happens next? Well, I think you'll meet a lot of great people on the way, people like Bart, people like Carlos, people like Charlie, and lots of other people in the community. And so I think the number 7 mistake is not making any friends along the way, because at the end of the day, we're all human, and that's really what it's all about. So thank you for coming today. I hope you start on your open source journey. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can find my Twitter handle there. And thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy the rest of today.
Awesome. Great points, Bill. Extremely practical, and I encourage you folks here in the chat to tweet so they can win that book. I think, the sort of urgency that some folks feel, because we've had some people commenting in the chat that sometimes they go to an open source project and they feel like there's nothing for them to work on. Like you said, just be patient. Check out the Slack, see how other people are getting involved, ask questions, introduce yourself, don't be shy, and enjoy the process. So anyway, I really like that. Are there any other resources that you might recommend for folks to check out that might be new or that might be struggling with this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I'd definitely check out the book I was talking about, Forging Your Future with Open Source. I think it's a really awesome introduction to kind of all the different things that you'll need there. other resources that I like to check out. I mean, it's like learn what you need to today, like just like Google, like piece by piece. Like I said, I have no technical background and I learned it one day at a time, right? And one Google at a time. So don't feel like you have to do all of it today. Just kind of take your time and learn what you need to accomplish what you want to today.
Completely agree. Rome was not built in a day, and nor was Kubernetes. So be patient, and that's the thing. Focus on the small goals, the things that you're learning. One, like you said, one article, one commit, one blog post at a time, and document that stuff as well too. So you see all the things you're learning, and not just getting panicky about the things you don't know yet. We always talk about the CNCF landscape. It's enormous. There isn't anybody who knows the entire. I don't think there is. Maybe that could be a challenge. And so anyway, I think these are all great pieces of advice. Folks, win the book, all right? Tweet and tag Bill. I put your Twitter in there as well so that he knows that you saw the talk. What was the most valuable piece that you got out of it? If you arrived a little bit late, you can rewind and watch it too. And just be on the lookout for Bill. He's always doing marvelous things. And it's great to see you. And it'll be even better to see you in person in Valencia. So looking forward to that.
I can't wait for it. See you there, Bart.
Take it easy, man. Thanks for coming. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.